Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Ryan Day, the Ohio State Buckeyes, wrapping up their spring practice window with the spring game Saturday afternoon. Now, look, I got to start with, hey, shout out Ryan Day and the Ohio State program. Coming off the national championship, not only playing what was a legit spring game, but let the Big Ten Network cover it, letting us get some eyeballs on this football team. And I guess I'll start off with my first takeaway. I thought Julian Sayin was extremely sharp. Like, if you're an Ohio State fan, I think you feel very comfortable with Julian Sayin being that quarterback one. Now, obviously, this is just a 15 spring practice of a whole spring practice window for Ohio State. But from what we saw, I thought Julian Sayin was the quarterback that commanded the offense the best. And that's not a shot at Lincoln Kienholz. And it's certainly not a shot at Tavien St. Clair, who's going to be very good for Ohio State. But I thought Julian Sayin was that clear quarterback that, was really sharp Saturday afternoon. Want to get into the quarterbacks. Want to talk about a few other names that I thought popped for Ohio State. And that's what makes talking this spring game so fun is, yeah, I get it. They lose a lot of really good football players that are going to the NFL draft. Like, let's not forget how Ohio State recruits every single year. You got a lot of really talented young players that are going to kind of take over the reins going into 2025. And I thought you saw, some really good things from some of those guys. Before we get into it, as always, to the Ohio State fans, and especially to the Ohio State fans that were dialed into the spring game, I'm sure y'all got some names that kind of stood out to you guys. Throw it in the comment section. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dale, without further ado, I will give you the T-Box. What you saw from these three quarterbacks, who was most impressive?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it. It does. I mean, Tavien St. Clair, you certainly saw the flashes, but you also saw the freshman
Yeah,
moments too.
yeah.
So I presume it is very much a Lincoln Kienholz, Julian Sayin kind of battle here. And it did feel like all spring, at least just reading the tea leaves from the beat reporters, it sounded like Kienholz was kind of the guy, if you will. Julian Sayin came out and
Yeah.
he played the way I think Ohio State fans would really want to see him play, where he was on time with everything, hitting guys in stride, being very accurate, getting the ball out of his hands pretty quickly. Like if he plays that way for Ohio State with all the talent they have,
Yeah.
that's really
And
good.
the thing that I'd add with Julian Sanders, I thought the ball was live coming out for him. And that was one of the things that maybe you had a question mark with. How can you attack the deeper third? Can you attack the boundary we need you to attack? And look, Julian Sain's not one of those quarterbacks that's a flamethrower. Like, it's clear Tavien St. Clair throws the ball a heck of a lot harder than a guy like Julian Sayin, but I thought the arm was live enough where you're not too concerned about
Like
getting.
that throw to Mylan Graham, that one, it was like a deep or mid post, if you will, like that type of throw where a lot of velocity into a very tight man coverage window. Like, yeah, he can make those throws. That's
Yeah,
kind of all you ask. The one thing you probably wish you saw a little bit more of is them be able to attack the boundary a bit. It
agreed.
did feel like most of what Sayin was doing was work in the middle of the field. And again, he's going to do that really, really well. We
Yep.
know that. But you probably want to see maybe them be able to work the boundary a little bit more with him.
Yeah. I would probably agree with that because that's probably your bigger concern. Like, you knew Julian coming out of high school, elite processor, extremely accurate, very quick release. We all saw those things, but I did think he made some big time throws. That's kind of what you want to see from Julian, where it's like, look, you're playing quarterback at Ohio State. It's not enough to just come in and manage a game. And we know Julian can do that, but can you elevate? Now, I thought you saw some high level throws, and I'm with you. You probably want to see a little bit more work in the boundary. And Dill Lincoln, I thought was sharp, especially after the first drive. Like, this is not a shot at Lincoln Kienholz. I just thought it was pretty clear that Julian Sayin was the most impressive. And I thought he processed really well too. I mean, he was going from read to read. The ball was out quick. I think the second takeaway for me here, this was about the best we've seen an offensive line for Ohio State look this early on.
They helped those quarterbacks a lot because the pass pro is awesome.
And I know Matt Patricia wasn't exactly dialing it up. You didn't see a ton of blitzes. You didn't see a ton of games up there from the defensive line. But in terms of just doing your job and not breaking down in protection, we normally watch these spring games, and it's dominated by the defensive line. I thought the Ohio State offensive line was really solid. I thought Ethan, the transfer from Rice, looked very, very solid.
Danielson Schieverfeld is going to be a really interesting bet because I would have never
Yeah,
thought Austin would be a right tackle or
yeah.
tackle period necessarily. He was out there, I feel like, working with the ones for a portion of it. He looked really, really good. So again, like And Daniels looked good too. So it's not like Daniels looked like, oh,
Yeah.
they got a guy who like, okay, he's probably losing this battle. Maybe Sieverfeld's just really good, and I
Yeah.
didn't know it.
And that's probably my two biggest takeaways here is that I think Julian looked. You feel good about whatever quarterback's going to start for Ohio State in 2025. To me, and I think a lot of Ohio State fans, Julian was the guy. And then the second takeaway was the offensive line is further along than we saw Ohio State's offensive line last year at this time. Now, granted, last year they were going up against guys like Jack Sawyer and JTT in the spring game, but I thought the offensive line looked solid. I thought C.J. Donaldson, the transfer from West Virginia, he ran the rock really hard, attacks the line of scrimmage. True freshman Bo Jackson, I should
I was
have.
going to say Bo Jackson was the guy. I was like, oh, he's going to play a lot for Ohio State this year, and he's going to
Yeah,
be really good for them.
yeah, and then the wide receiver, it's an embarrassment of riches, and I don't think that's a big
Don't know
takeaway
that.
because I think you knew that going into the spring game. Uh, Mylan Graham, yeah, Quincy Porter too, but Mylan Graham. Like he's kind of that fourth wide receiver in this rotation right now. If you're Ohio State, you got to figure out a way. And they'll kind of like the forgotten wide receiver. He was also a 5-star that came in with Jeremiah Smith last year. Now nobody talked about him because Jeremiah Smith, the generationally talented wide receiver, Mylan Graham can play, and he certainly looked the part this afternoon in the spring game. And I like the tight ends. Obviously headlined by Max Clair, but you saw some good things. Nate Roberts, the true freshman from Oklahoma, thought he looked pretty good too. Now, probably won't play a lot, but probably worth noting if you're an Ohio State fan. Flipping over to the defense. And again, Dill, I thought you saw a very, very bland Matt Patricia defense, which is not surprising.
But
Here's the
the concern's going to be that defensive line because I know
yes.
we were like,
Yeah,
yeah, the
agreed.
offensive line looked great, and even Ryan Day kind of alluded to it. He's like, well, your one unit plays really well, and you
Yeah.
like seeing that, but does that mean the other side, their complement, if you will,
Yeah.
and then in that defensive line, that's going to be the concern because obviously you lose four guys who were playing so many of the snaps last year. So like Edric Houston got in later. Feels like to me like he's probably got to get a little tougher against the run. It felt like he was getting moved around a little
Yeah.
bit. He's going to be a really good pass rusher. I think he showed that last year.
Yeah.
But he's like if he's going to like eat the snaps that Tyreek Williams was eating type thing, like
Mm-hmm.
he just probably needs to be tougher against the run.
Yeah, I thought they were getting moved around a little bit. And again, credit the offensive line, but also like if you're an Ohio State fan, that is one. I mean, you talk about Will Howard and Judkins and Jeremiah Smith and Emeka last year. That was a large player in the national championship. But what also was that defensive line was elite, specifically in the playoffs. And you were looking at a defensive line, a front seven, if you will, that was top 5 in the country against the run and the number 1 pass rushing defensive line in the country last year. And so you look at the recipe for running it back in 2025. That's probably the main goal here is can we find it's hard to see this unit being as good as it was last year. You're just losing so many good football players. But can we get back to like still a dominant front seven that can stop the run and get after the passer? Kind of to be determined. I thought
And then
Logan.
you got to find the defensive ends who can win one on one.
Yeah,
That's really
yeah,
another because like Kenyatta Jackson's like a guy. The tackles were doing a good job against him. It wasn't when
yeah,
he got his one on ones with those guys. He wasn't winning consistently. CJ Hicks, I know there's a lot of excitement about him, but like
yeah.
there's got to be some progression there if he's going to be a dependable player for Ohio State. So that probably is your big takeaway. Is again, Logan George flashed some good things. Caden Curry, I think, is a very solid player.
Yes, agreed.
Is he going to give you that elite production that Ohio State's kind of losing? TBD, but like that's probably the position again. That's the one we'll all be looking for.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see if Ohio State decides to address this position in the portal. Now, I don't know how many names are going to hit the portal that would start or contribute for Ohio State because it ain't a bad unit. You're probably just hoping to get these guys to develop come August. And
Zion Grady's going to play this year. You
I
talk
think
about
so.
like a possible answer. Zion Grady, when he came in that second half and had some reps, I think he looked really
Yeah,
good.
and to me, it's like you mentioned him at the top, Edric Houston. Like it's going to be a big summer for him in the weight room, and just getting a little bit. You can tell he was a guy that you weren't really sure if he was going to play out on the edge or on the inside, making the transition inside. Now you said it, very good pass rusher. We gotta get it going against the run. Linebackers, Peyton Pierce, man, he's gonna be a good ball player for Ohio State. Now I don't know if he'll start over. What'd you say?
And so is Pettijohn. I like
Yeah,
the young linebackers.
they're fast. And then in the back end, Dill, you know it's going to be a good unit. Like, look, if you're Ohio State going into 2025, you saw a lot of boxes get checked. quarterback position. In my opinion, massive check. I left that spring game feeling very good about what the quarterback's play is going to be for Ohio State. We know the wide receivers are good. Offensive line, to me, was a pleasant surprise. You got one question, and that is, can we stop the run and impact the quarterback the way we did in the 2024 year? And if you can progress going forward into 2025, this team obviously checks a ton of boxes. I thought it was and again, shout out Ryan Day in Ohio State. It felt great waking up noon, watching.
I mean, you feel like it's the spring game. You still get a little like the butterflies.
Yeah, 100%. You saw me. I was kind of buzzing around.
Like these SEC teams that are doing like close, not only like not on TV, but not letting the media tweet about the games. Crazy.
Hey, look, who are the pro? One thing we can all agree on real quick. Who are the programs that are gonna play spring games, gonna have them on TV? Them Big Ten schools. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. To the Ohio State fans, please let it fly in the comment section with names that stood out to you. Also, your take on the quarterback position. And we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.